The question is, the motion be agreed to. The Honourable Alyssa Hayden.
Thank you, Mr President. I'm extremely pleased to be able to stand here today and have the opportunity to do my reply to Her Excellency, the Governor's speech at the opening of the 40th Parliament. I'd also like to just take a moment, if I may, Mr President, and acknowledge the past Speaker of the Lower House, the Honourable Michael Sutherland, and also to all the Lower House members that have come here today to bear witness to hopefully what will be a smooth speech. I'm glad that I got the opportunity to witness a question time that's run a bit more civil than the Lower House, and they may have learnt something while they were here. I'd also like to thank all my family and friends that are here as well today. I thought it was a good idea to invite them. I'm now having second thoughts, but we'll see how we go and if I can get through it. Mr President, it is a privilege to be able to give an address and reply, especially at the end of an election when you've not been successful. After every election, this is actually a very strange and a bizarre position we find ourselves in. Many of my friends in the Lower House were unable to give an address and reply. So to me, it was a struggle to think whether they had it better or whether I did. But what I can tell you, Mr President, is that the Upper House is unique and quirky, and the way we operate is a little bit bizarre and different to any other workplace. After every election, we find ourselves in waiting to the 21st of May. In 2008, I was elected to this place, and I had to wait a very long 8 months before being sworn into Parliament. Now, at the other end of my term, I have to sit and wait to say goodbye. I have now found a new respect for the members that had to depart after the election in 2008, because sitting here for 8 months must have been extremely difficult. I have recently joked that unlike our Assembly members who were thrown from the office on the night of the election, the council members go into palliative care treatment, and we are set with a life support date when the machine is switched off on the 21st of May. There are some pros and there are some cons for both sides. But what I do know, as I said earlier, it's actually a very painful time. Over the past 8 years, I've got to my feet and spoken many times in this place. However, today, Mr President, takes me back to how I felt the first time I stood here. Over time, you learn to take this place for granted. We walk in through those doors and take our seat. We feel comfortable. We're familiar. I suppose we've become complacent with our surroundings. But today, as I said, I've been thrown back into time to my first speech, and I feel fortunate, lucky, privileged to be a member of this chamber. However, unlike my first speech, my time for now, and I do say now, has come to an end. The experiences and friends I have made over this journey cannot be repeated, and is certainly a special time for all of us and our lives to be a part of this democratic system and of Parliament. We form an exclusive and quirky family. The friendships we make in this place are like no other. The diversity of this role is another aspect that I will extremely be disappointed to leave and will be difficult to replace. Along with the ability to be able to help the community at this level is certainly unique. The young 39-year-old that delivered her inaugural speech 8 years ago, and I'm not asking you to do the maths, Mr President, has no regrets. I entered this place with a goal to put the East Metropolitan region on the map, to represent the WA small business community and the everyday person that I had the privilege to grow up with in the community that I grew up in the hills. I know I had fulfilled those goals, plus the many more that I set and that the community set for me. As mentioned in my first speech, the truck industry stole my heart right up front. I can't thank enough the many drivers and industry stakeholders that I have met, worked with and now call my friends. Transport certainly was not a platform of mine when I decided to enter Parliament. However, my interest was sparked after attending my first public forum as an elected member of those long 8 months, but not as yet sworn in. I had no idea attending a forum to see the Minister for Transport at the time, the Honourable Simon O'Brien, that I was going to have such a massive impact, that forum was going to have such a massive impact on me. And I'm sorry, it wasn't about you, Simon. Nor did I think that forum was going to take me on 2 5-day long-haul, heavy-load trips up north. But it did. It was the start of my very healthy obsession of the transport sector. The keynote speaker of this forum was an amazing individual who turned her life around against all odds. And although times were tough for her, her passion for the truck industry was and still is unwavering. Her name is Heather Jones. And although I have met many influential people in my life, Heather is certainly one of the main women who has had such an important, positive and personal impact. So much so, as I said, she convinced me to travel up north 5 days in an oversized load to Tom Price to witness firsthand the conditions our truck drivers experienced. This trip turned into another, and the experience I gained from these trips and the contacts I made started my journey on being a passionate advocate for our truck drivers. I share this with you all members because it's important that we remember, although we enter this place with our own goals, it is vital that we remain open and we listen to the needs of our community and work towards achieving their goals as well as our own. Steve Post has been another champion for the transport industry and has never been too shy to pick up the phone when he thought my mind may have turned to another cause. He has certainly kept the needs of this industry in the forefront of my mind. And one of the major successes that I'm extremely proud to be part of was when the Liberal government got involved and supported the establishment of the TransSafe WA. Since its establishment in 2014, TransSafe has held 12 road transport industry safety forums, each forum attracting over 800 participants. To say that this was long overdue and needed within the industry is an understatement. TransSafe already have their next goal in mind, and that's to deliver a safety truck to WA for the sole purpose to visit schools, regional and metropolitan shows to educate road users on how to share our roads with heavy haulage. Of course, like any program or any project, they need support of sponsors and government. And I'm standing here today urging the new Minister for Road Safety and Transport to get behind this important initiative, an initiative that will certainly save lives on our roads. With the help of Heather and Steve, I believe we have achieved a lot of great things together. And I leave this place and encourage my colleagues not to forget this trucking transport industry that carries our state. It's the simple things we take for granted every day we go to work that they do not get to enjoy. And that is why I have worked hard with our ministers over the 8 years to deliver improved rest areas, facilities, upgraded roads, so drivers can continue to do their jobs in a safe and respectful environment. As I said many times in this place before, and I could not leave my last time without repeating it, the one main message that needs to be continually promoted across the state is for the general motorist to understand how to share our roads safely with heavy vehicles and to show them some respect. Our truck industry is vital to the prosperity of our state. Not only do they provide transport for our mining and farming industries, they deliver 3/4 of our domestic freight, including every item on the shelves in the supermarket that you visit. Without the hard-working men and women in our transport industry, our state would come to a sudden stop. Mr. President, I have thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to explore the many different industries, associations, groups and individuals that I have been able to be introduced to and represent in my role. It allows us to continue to learn and to listen to the needs and the wants of the people we represent. One of the industries that I have thoroughly enjoyed being involved in is through my role as Parliamentary Secretary for Tourism. The tourism sector became a major focus of mine over the past 4 years. With 2 of the major tourism highlights of Perth in my electorate, the Swan Valley and the Perth Hills, I have always advocated for their recognition and for tourism to be promoted in this sector. And when I was made Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Tourism, I can tell you I was over the moon. Many of our tourism operators are small businesses, and with my experience as a small business operator, it didn't take long to realise that it was red tape and bureaucracy that is suffocating tourism within WA. The passion within this industry is second to none. We have amazing operators here in WA. While promoting their own business, they are the major champions of our state. and they bring visitors not only to their doorstep, but to every other business around the state. I'm extremely proud to be a part of the Barnett Liberal government. I know the vision and the investment made by our Premier, the Honourable Colin Barnett, provided and enabled the WA tourism sector a city to be proud of. It has given tourism a grand capital city to showcase, to sell across Australia and to countries around the world. Projects such as Elizabeth Quay, Yagan Square, the Perth Stadium, they have improved Perth's attraction and global awareness and has transformed our city forever. The redevelopment of Scarborough, upgrades on Rottnest Island, Perth Airport expansion, the 2,000 plus new hotel rooms and the redevelopment of the Busselton Airport, which all add to the attractiveness of WA as a holiday destination. The Liberal government backed up this investment with effective marketing and the very successful and welcomed campaign by the industry, Just Another Day in WA. We experienced a massive growth in cruising with 58 cruise ships visiting our shores last year. Those cruise ships brought 152,000 passengers who spent $275 million in our state. The past few years under the Liberal government has seen an incredible change and opportunity for the tourism in this state. However, the most rewarding role that I played in assisting the Minister for Tourism was the work with the individual operators to cut through bureaucracy restricting their growth and their potential. And although I succeeded to assist with many individual requests, there is one, sadly, that I did not have enough time to complete. So tonight I have decided to raise it here as my last-ditch effort to see it achieved. Although it may seem to be a bit of a minor request in the scheme of things of what we do in this place, I can assure you this is not minor to the tourism operator. The tourism industry is made up of many dynamic and usually groundbreaking businesses for the simple fact they need to be quick to respond to the demands of their consumer. In tourism, if you are not offering something new, something exciting, you will not get that visitor to your business and we will not get them to our state. The visitor has so many options and choices, we need to be the best one for them. Sadly, government is not always up to speed or works fast enough for many of these new businesses to succeed. One of our new operators are the Segway Tours that do operate out of Barrack Street Jetty. They came to me with two simple requests, Mr. President. One was to gain access to the Fremantle Port and the second to Kings Park for their tours. I'm pleased to say that the Fremantle Port tour is now up and running. I encourage all members to get out there and enjoy it. However, I leave with unfinished business with negotiating access to Kings Park. So I guess I'm pleading to the Kings Park Board and to the new ministers to simply permit a designated Segway pathway through Kings Park for our local community and visitors to enjoy. It is not hard. These Segway tours are informative and filled with history of Perth, and we have an exceptional story to be told and views to be enjoyed in and from Kings Park. As I said, this may seem to be a small matter in the scheme of things, but this is a prime example of government not assisting business to grow and prosper, and it is ridiculous restrictions like this that can see a business either succeed or fail. It's up to you. I hope they succeed. As a Member of Parliament, we remain true to our purposes and our goals. And one of my personal goals was to inject as much common sense as possible into the government bureaucracy. Not an easy one. Although I did win some, I can assure you the score still sits in favour with the bureaucracy. Taking up the fight to our bureaucracy is a major part of the role that I will greatly miss. However, I doubt that they will miss me. I ask the members that remain to remember that your role is not just to roll over and agree with government agencies. It's about pushing the boundaries and injecting good old-fashioned common sense. In the last year, I led an investigation into Airbnb with a vision of forming a policy surrounding the information gathered. With the speed of which the shared economy is growing, I knew as a government we needed to get our heads around the issue and understand the potential impacts this new economy will have on tourism in WA. The most overwhelming point that was identified is that we have hundreds of Airbnb and short stay providers operating across the state without approval. This is occurring as it is up to each individual local council to allow or disallow short-term accommodation within its boundaries. Before I go on, Mr. President, it's important when discussing Airbnb that everyone is speaking about the same thing. The traditional Airbnb is a homeowner who decides to rent out part of their home as a short stay to a visitor and stay there and host them, which is completely different to a standalone holiday home where the owner or the resident is not there and renting out the home in its entirety. It should not be confused or nor put into the same category. But my investigation highlighted that regardless of the stance that local council took on short-term accommodation, holiday homes and Airbnb providers are operating and are open for business, which demonstrates that our existing regulatory and policy framework in Western Australia in this area is obsolete. It is important to note that there is an urgent need to acknowledge and address the modern age of technology and the establishment of the shared economy, and Uber is a perfect example. If the result of this election was different, my recommendations would have been to introduce statewide policy, to simply permit short-term accommodation at a state government level, which would remove the ridiculous position that we are all currently in. The opportunity to modernise our policy would have also seen that instead of introducing new regulations, that we take this opportunity to reduce and remove the red tape associated with the traditional accommodation sector. It is important for government to be a part of the solution to enable the new and existing accommodation providers to succeed. A simple statewide regulation to allow short stay accommodation and reduce the unnecessary and excessive oversight across the sector that currently exists is urgently required. The hotel and accommodation sector is heavily over-regulated, and we need to acknowledge the huge investment made in developing and operating our hotels. However, the shared economy is here and it is not going away. So a balance needs to be found to ensure that the growth of Airbnb does not impact on the viability of our existing hotel sector. The obvious is to develop open competition across the accommodation sector. To make this successful, the government will need to work with the hotel industry and undertake regulatory mapping exercise of the regulations required to construct and operate a hotel in order to reduce red tape. This should include consideration of potential inconsistencies in the building code requirements and classifications. By doing this, government will then be on track to establishing an even playing field across the accommodation sector. Mr. President, I do understand that the government isn't seeking policy advice from this side of the chamber. However, I am encouraging the new Minister for Tourism, the Honourable Paul Papalia, who I know shares my same passion for tourism, not to shy away from making a bold, radical and stimulating change to the way hotels and the accommodation sector are regulated. Now is the time, Minister, to modernise the regulation that are restricting our tourism operators and allow them to cater to the consumer demand. The Liberal government prepared this state for growth in our tourism sector, and I am begging the new government not to miss the opportunity that has been laid out for you to succeed. No matter where I end up in the future, I will continue my support for the tourism sector and the many outstanding men and women that are in this industry. They are remarkable people achieving extraordinary experiences, and I thank them for making our state an amazing place to live. I need to make a special mention of a person who has been behind the scenes for tourism for 30 years plus, who is respected by all across the industry, whose knowledge and understanding of the sector has helped me over the past 4 years, and that is Ian Johnson. Thank you for taking the late calls and for your extreme professionalism over the past 4 years. I hope I haven't ruined your future career. Speaking of outstanding individuals, of course, there are many more I wish to thank today. On the 11th of March, the people of WA voted and made their decision. Along with that decision, including myself, many of my friends lost their position. I don't call them colleagues, as this is a job we share far more. The people that make up our team become family. There is no other job like this. We rely on each other and put trust in one another. I want to thank my many lower house members that lost on the 11th of March, especially to my East Metropolitan colleagues and friends, and of course to my Upper House family for their friendship, guidance and support. To our leader, the Honourable Peter Collier, you have been an inclusive leader and you have always encouraged each of your team members to be their best. You're a true mate and I thank you for all your support you have shown me. To my roommate, the Honourable Jim Chowne, we have also sat next to each other in this place since the day we entered. Even when faced with the wrath of our former leader, you stuck by me, buddy. We have shared a great bond and I liken it to a brother and sister relationship. We never let up on each other. We always are looking for a dig and I suppose I can give as good as he gets and that's why we get on so well.
Only sometimes.
But sometimes loyal. My East Metro colleague, the Honourable Donna Farragut, who also shared the burden of sitting next to Jim over the past few years. I think, Donna, it's only fair that as I depart and that you have now moved from sitting next to Jim, that we should actually brief our chamber mates who will be taking on this burden when I leave. There is payment for sitting next to Jim, and it's in the currency is in the form of Sherbies. And the payment is made by his electorate staff as they are forever grateful for our sacrifice and keeping him out of their hair. Donna, I am sorry that I now leave you to the huge challenge ahead and looking after East Metro alone. But the good people of East Metro will be looking for a shining light to guide them back, and I know that you'll be there for them. We make long-term and special friends in this place, and without an ongoing commentary or listing them all, I wouldn't have ended this journey as sane as I am without them. The Honourable Nick Goran, confidant and awesome friend. The Honourable Liz Bajat, one word, sisterhood. To all my Liberal LC or Black Hand Gang members, I know that you're all only a phone call away, and I know where you live if you change your number. To a special few in the lower house, Paul Miles and Michael Sutherland, I know our friendship will last a test of time and will continue outside these walls. To the Honourable Colin Barnett, the man who brought us back in 2008 and, as a result, gave me the opportunity to stand in this place and be a member of the Legislative Council, an opportunity that I will always appreciate and thank him for. Being a leader is no easy feat. A leader of a political team would have to be one of the toughest and loneliest gigs around. Sadly, politics is a brutal game, and although we know this before we start, I don't believe we really ever appreciate how brutal it is until it hits us. Tonight, I wish to thank Colin for his support and leadership. He respected the position he held and he made it his goal to ensure that the position of Premier was never tainted or stained. It was obvious in the first year that he had an agenda to make our state great, and I believe he achieved that and then some. Apart from the investments I referred to earlier, within our capital city, Colin delivered a record spend in the East Metropolitan region. From the new Midland Hospital, the Midland Curtin University campus, the Gateway project along Tonkin Highway, Northlink, previously known as Perth to Darwin Highway, Swan Valley Bypass, I think it still has an identity crisis, train line to Forestfield, hundreds of road projects. You cannot drive around East Metro without having to go through roadworks. Schools, tourism attractions, and the list goes on. This, in my opinion, is one of his major achievements that he can be extremely proud of. For decades, all sides of government have neglected and ignored this region, but not under the Barnett Liberal government. And for that, I believe the work of the former Liberal government will be known and held in high regard across the East Metropolitan region for many years to come. The challenge now, my friends that sit opposite, is to hope that the McGowan government doesn't revert back to its old ways and turn its back on the eastern suburbs. I will be watching. The Honourable Kim Hames, former Deputy Premier. I had the privilege of working with him as Parliamentary Secretary for Health and Tourism. I guess you can all pick which one I liked better. I wish to thank him for his friendship, guidance, and to Melinda in his office for helping me pronounce the big long words in question time on all the health issues. Kim's retirement saw an old friend of mine become a new member, the new member for Dawesville, Zach Kirkup. I've known Zach since he was 16, so if you want any dirt, I've got it. And it saddens me that unfortunately we will not be serving together for now. But Zach, you will be a massive contributor and I know you have a long and exciting career. I've also enjoyed working with many amazing people amongst our community. And we are extremely fortunate to have such amazing volunteers and people committed to making our community better. And in no particular order, because I truly value them all, I just wish to place on the record the dedication and commitment of a few outstanding members of the local East Metro community. Patsy Malloy and her board at the Midland Women's Health Centre, all the amazing men at the Midland Men's Shed, and in particular Dave Savage and Kevin Buckland, Northern Redbacks Women's Soccer Club, the coaches and the players. Not only did you steal my heart, you also stole Colin's, and we built them a great, fantastic new change rooms. They've made me their patron and they've asked me to stay on, and it's something that I will cherish and do my utmost to support them. To the many Swan Valley operators, Anthony Urisic, James Taliancich, Daniel Pinelli, Peter Prindeville, Alan Ursic, Carolyn Taylor, and of course the godmother of the Valley, Corinne Lamont. The Perth Hills Vigneron Association, and in particular Josh and Rachel Davenport, Mike Foley, the CEO of the City of Swan, and Kieran Kinsella from the Midland/Metropolitan Regional Development Authority. The City of Swan has been extremely professional to work with, and in our role as government we have teamed up with the City of Swan over many major and small projects, from the dualling of Nangara Road, major intersection upgrades in Roe and Reed Highway, to the many local roads and roundabout improvements, the Allenbrook Sporting Complex, river restorations, anti-crime initiatives, and so on. The City also works closely and successfully with the many developments that are undertook by the Midland and now Metropolitan Redevelopment Authority. I honestly believe the work that has been achieved is a credit to the aptitude and the professionalism of the two CEOs, Mike Foley and Kieran Kinsella. I wish them all every success and hope that our paths cross again soon. Of course, my respect goes to the Liberal Party of Western Australia for granting me the honour to represent our party in this chamber. In particular, I wish to acknowledge the thousands of Liberal members and young Liberals that are around our state, for their dedication to protecting our Liberal beliefs and for the tireless support they give to our party. A special mention must go to all the branch members across the East Metropolitan region, of course. They worked tirelessly across the election and they worked very hard on hundreds of campaigns. I'm sorry we let you down this time around, but please keep your faith in us because we will be back in 4 years. And to all the candidates that stood and waved the Liberal flag on our behalf, thank you. It is a huge commitment that you have to give up, your work, your time, and I thank you for everything you have done to help us win more seats for the Liberal Party. To our small team at HQ, both past and present, there's a few of them, who have supported me greatly over the years. Ben Morton, Zach Kirkup, Ben Allen, Sam Calabresi, Andrew Cox, Serena Moyer, Shelby Owen, Amy Calabresi, and of course, Proby, Chris Gardner. A big thank you to you all. I also have a few acknowledgements and thank yous to a special team, and that's Team Midland. I have been accused of being Midland-centric and I will never apologise for it. Daniel Parasolidi. Oh, I'm not meant to cry over you. I've never met such a determined and dynamic individual. His compassion and enthusiasm to achieve for his community is a trait he is well known for. Daniel has been my so-called political running partner for the past few years. I'm just sorry that we weren't able to get over the line together, or at least one of us. But I know that there's a great future ahead waiting for you, buddy, and I'll be there to support you in whatever you do. Graham Harris, who has dedicated his life to supporting and promoting the business community of Midland and the Liberal Party, and has been a long-term friend of mine. Ray Gianoli, who has been a strong supporter and will continue to be a great friend. Hank Louie, you are an amazing individual. We will miss you unless we can entice you back at the next campaign. Liam Staltari, a true young gentleman with a huge future. To my three stooges, Stefan, Desley Clate, Jessica Wright and Jasmine Lars, you guys added sparkle when sparkle was needed. And I look forward to watching all of your amazing futures that you have ahead of you. There are two very special ladies that, as usual, are sitting up the back that have been with me since the start of my journey. And that's, of course, my two amazing staff, Alison McNee and Lenny Butler. Although we have worked as a team for the past 8 years, our journeys together started long before then. We have shared in each other's highs and lows, and I won't lie, our friendship has been tested from the pressures of this workplace. But I know that our friendship... Jim, you meant to stop me? What are you good for?
Keep going.
Our friendship will last the test of time, and I'm looking forward to going back to just being friends. Whenever people would ask, how did I manage to keep the same staff for 8 years? They're sick of hearing this, but my answer was always because we have too much dirt on each other and we can't part. It's not a joke. Unfortunately, they now have a lot more on me than I do on them, so I'll be sticking close. Our staff are our eyes, our ears, and sometimes the targets in the community we represent. They are the unsung heroes because they do understand it's all about us. I know that I have been extremely lucky to end my term with the same two staff that I started with. I also know this is extremely rare, and I cannot thank them enough for standing by my side and for having my back, and for representing the community I chose to stand for. And I think that's something every member needs to remember. We chose this job, we chose our electorate, our staff chose us. I'm looking forward to a well-earned farewell lunch together. Our family and friends are the ones that take the real brunt of the long hours and commitments of this job, and I won't look up because then I will lose it. And I want to thank those who have stood by and given their support. To my friends who have shared a glass or two or three with me over the years, you have kept me sane. Rosalie Dolliver, thank you very much for your friendship. To my amazing and beautiful extended family, you all know you are simply the best, and I look forward to spending more quality time with you. To my extremely proud parents, Arthur and Sandra Wallace. I know I couldn't make them any prouder. Yeah. Drink. Thank you. I know I couldn't make them any prouder, and as a daughter, that's the ultimate. Knowing that you've lived up to the dreams and wishes of your parents, you could not ask for anything more. But what I need them to know, that they certainly over-delivered as parents, and I could not ask for anything more or anything better. And I love you both so much. Now, to Terry, the man who always makes me laugh. The one that thinks that it's always about him, my husband of 23 years. Our partners certainly pay the price for our choice of careers. The late nights, the early starts, the crankiness of preparing our week and speeches like this. I won't say that I've been lucky. I prefer to mark it down to the fact that I actually made the right choice when picking my husband. Although Terry has many great attributes which he does remind me of every day, the most important one I thrive on and forever grateful for is that I never have to worry about jealousy or resentment. I've never had to apologise for working late or staying back for a drink with friends or for holding such a busy job. Instead, I've always received nothing but encouragement, humour, love and support from Terry. I know this shouldn't be something that we should have to acknowledge or celebrate, but unfortunately for many, this is not the norm. And although this can cross both genders, we have come a long way in supporting women in the workplace. There is still a long way we need to go to enable women to reach their full potentials, and it starts with our partners. And I know that I'm lucky to have Terry to encourage me to reach mine. There is one thing Terry does hate to share, and that is the limelight. So as I step down at the end of this week, I do have a couple more days, I know he's already planning his comeback and that he will take his rightful place to be centre of attention once again, as he so deserves. Mr. President, I want to thank you for your friendship and support you have shown me over the years. Your wise counsel has always been appreciated, and I know this place will certainly miss your presence and your wisdom. You've raised the standard, and your legacy to uphold our traditional values are ones I hope are continued. I wish you a very happy retirement, and I look forward to sharing a Margaret River Red with you when I pop by. To the staff of the Chamber, the Parliament, Security and Hansard, thank you for making Parliament run so smoothly, for assisting us to do our jobs, for making us look as if we know what we're doing. I sincerely appreciate the many and varied roles that are held to make this House operate, and I wish to thank you all for all your friendliness and eagerness to help. I really do hope that this is not the end of my parliamentary career, and as I leave this place, I'm going to refer to them as my gap years. I never had a gap year as a younger person, so I figured this is as good a time as any. I still have so much more I wish to contribute, and we use this time to reflect and to win back the confidence of the community that we must have lost along the way. But I cannot leave this place, Mr. President, without placing on the record the need for a review into preferential voting system, especially extremely complicated systems that we have in the Legislative Council. Please don't mistake this and my points as bitterness, because they certainly aren't. I understand these are the rules that we operate in and how our vote is counted. However, I also value the democratic right and believe that that the system has not delivered for the voters of Western Australia. Our democratic system is meant to reflect the desire of the community, with the majority's voice being reflected in the result. The result of the Legislative Council, I fear, this time, did not reflect the view or the desire of the community. The fact that we had 12 parties with quotas ranging from 0.10 to as low as 0.01 that determined the fate of the sixth position in the East Metropolitan ticket demonstrates exactly that. I urge this chamber to acknowledge that the current preferential voting system is not serving the people of Western Australia and that an overhaul of our system needs to take place.
Yeah.
Not for the sake of me or for any of you in this chamber, it's for the respect of those who turn out to vote. The ticketing system that failed in the Senate in 2013 election has been replaced. In effect, optional preferential voting above and below the line. In 2016, it was no longer possible for preference harvesters to engineer complex deals between micro-parties, such as the disgraceful win by parties with less than 1%. In WA, there was no time to change the Legislative Council voting system to bring it in line with the Senate, but if it had, we would have a different result that we have today. So, Mr. President, I encourage that the powers to be to take a good, long, hard look and adopt the Senate system. I'm a positive person, Mr. President, and although it saddens me to leave this time for now, I'm looking forward to what lies ahead and for the new chapter in my life. So as I ended my maiden speech, I'll do the same with this. My mum gave me a line when I was very young, a line that I've lived my life by and served me well. If it is to be, it is up to me. You haven't seen the last of me. I will be back.
Yeah.